Hello, my name is Nicolás Guerra. I'm a veterinarian by education. I'm coming from Spain and I work in Ceva as a corporate marketing manager for pharmaceutical products. Actually, I'm going to talk to you about what are the actions that Ceva is taking to help the veterinary field to reduce the use of antibiotics and use them in a responsible way. We believe that antibiotics has an important role to play in the animal health. It's been important in the past, currently, but as well in the future. During my presentation, I will explain you what are the activities, actions, and tools that Ceva is offering already to the veterinarians to help them to use antibiotics in a rational way.
Hello everybody, thank you Stefano for the introduction. First of all, I want to thank you as well, Mark Mombard, our Swine Regional Manager, for inviting the corporate team here in Ceva to share with you what is the position, what is the view of Ceva has about the use of antibiotics. Because we know that it's something that we have to protect. And let me start this presentation with one reflection that we have seen already this morning, which is for over 80 years, antibiotics have protected you, your family, but as well the livestock and your pets. The point is, now it's time to protect them because we need them as well. They have a role to play. And this is what we are going to talk today in this presentation. We are going to explain you how do we see this subject on the veterinary field. All we know, this is a figure that we know very well of us, that the population will establish around 9.3 billion in 2015. And this is one of the challenges that we have in our community. Bear in mind these megatrends that are well known. 70% of the population are concentrated in mega cities. We have to feed this population. At the same time, it means that we need to increase 50–60% the food production to cover all these needs. That means that we have to use in a very efficient way the land that we have. Even we expect that we will need to increase 2% the current land for production. This, as a result, means that 70% of the production we have to improve by productivity. And one important point, which is linked with this presentation, 20% of the losses of animal production are caused by disease. So in this world, there is a high growth and expectation to cover these global trends. Okay? We know that there is an increase of demand for food, as we said, for urbanization, for communities. This demand requires an intensification of production, animal production, sorry. But at the same time, as we have seen today, during the morning, when Bill was presenting from Tyson, or when our colleague Jean-Noël was presenting from Coupel, the consumer start to look for a specific food. They have the requirements, and we have to cover it. We have to solve and to find the solutions to offer them what they are looking for. So, what does it mean in this global picture? It means that, from one side, we need to use antibiotics to cover human problems. Okay, we have here the human medicine community. From other side, we have to use antibiotics to solve problems in the veterinary field. Our animals get sick, and we know that the antibiotics provide us a solution. In these two segments, there is a common link, which is the agriculture, because the bacteria which are in contact with the antibiotics, from one side the veterinary medicine, from the other side the human population, they create, or they are in common in an environment coming from agriculture, industry, and there is a threat that we know that we can share bacteria that are developing antimicrobial resistance and finally can affect us. This means that could have the risk that some bacteria, if we don't take care, we were not able to treat them with antibiotics due to the resistance created. So for this, we have to take actions and we have to think how to improve the use of antibiotics. So let's make a brief outlook of what is the current situation with the antibiotics policy and its use. Okay, I have prepared here some small slides starting from Europe. Here we have the European Commission that, under political pressure, public pressure, they have reacted and they have started to regulate the use of the antibiotics. It's true that in 2015 they have published new guidelines for the prudent use of antimicrobials in veterinary medicine. And one of the things that they state is that every member state, this means every country, has to develop and implement a national plan about how to use these antibiotics. For example, we have countries, today Dr. Hitt presented from Denmark, Jan-Noël for France, they are starting to set up national plans trying to reduce its use. At the same time, we have another organization, which is the EMA, is the Medicament Agency of Europe, is giving advice to all the European Union about the use of the antibiotics by presenting a categorization of them. And they have presented, let me go back, in 3 categories. There is category 1, which are antibiotics with no risk at all for human use. There is a second category, which are antibiotics that we can use in the veterinary field, but they can cause a potential risk if we use it in human health. And finally, there are 3 categories. The third category is the antibiotics that we are not using at all in the animal health, but only human health. Now, if we jump to the States, United States, something is happening as well. Here we have the FDA, which is taking action to promote the judicious use of antibiotics. What they are looking is to start to limiting the use of these medicaments only to cure animals when they need it. And a second thing that they are emphasizing a lot is that this use of antibiotics has to be overviewed, controlled by veterinarians. Okay? Since 1st of January this year, it's been implemented, the Veterinary Feed Directive, published by the FDA, where they try to regulate the use of premix, feed-grade antibiotics in the herds. Okay? This directive is trying to remove any production or growth promotion uses from all the labeled medicament antibiotics. For example, another point that they are starting to do is to eliminate the over-the-counter status of the medicaments. No more a farmer can go and buy by itself a premix, a feed-grade antibiotic. This means that now they require the prescription, the control of a veterinarian. And at the same time, the treatment of oral by water or injectable antibiotics requires as well the prescription of this veterinarian. So as you can see, as well, something is changing in the States to control this use. What happened here in Asia? Here in Asia, we have, for example, the case of China, which, which as a starting point, they have stopped to ban several molecules, fluoroquinolones molecules, like the levofloxacin or norfloxacin. But as well, they are starting to focus on colistin. And this is important, as we will see. They have banned the use of colistin to promote growth on the animals. And they can only use it as a curative treatment when the animals are affected by gram-negative bacteria. Other countries like Vietnam, exactly the same. There are some banned or restricted antibiotic use, mainly focused on feed. And they are publishing different circulations, like Circulate 6, which has almost banned or restricted the use of premix, limiting the list of molecules around 40 molecules only, and with the objective to ban completely any use of growth promotion in the feed with these molecules the latest end of this year. It's the same case with the Circular 10, where they are controlling very, very much the use of the antibiotics in the aquarium industry, or they want to focus on a better control of the quality of the imported products, basically focusing on 3 points. Test the safety of the medicament, test the purity and the efficacy. What is happening in Philippines? More or less the same. The government actually is classifying certain antibiotics based on the maximum residuum limit. They want to declare if the antibiotic is safe or not, and they are focusing on antibiotic molecules and another, for example, fluorphenicol or thiamphenicol. It's important to comment as well that Philippines and other countries, they have been integrated in the Asian Association, and what they are coming or are telling us is that anything which will happen about the use of antibiotics in all the Asian countries will have an effect as well in Philippines. But what is happening in Thailand? I'm going to focus basically on colistin. You know better than me probably that this molecule has become a problem. We know that it exists bacteria, basically E. coli, with a plasmid that is able to circulate and is able to transfer this plasmid-resistant plasmid to another. So we have to take care about the use of this molecule from now to the future. And what are the measures that the Thai authorities have prepared? Okay, the first point is that they never order or use colistin in combination with food or water. Another point that they claim is that they have to strict adhere to veterinary practice. This means you require a diagnostic action, you have to isolate the bacteria, you have to do a sensibility test, and in case that all the possible solutions are resistant to the bacteria, you are allowed to use colistin, but not before. To control the use of this colistin, they are implementing different teamworks or equipments around the country to control on every farm what is its use, and if someone is not, let's say, complying with this new rule. And finally, something as well that it seems that they are implementing is a kind of assay, taking random samples from different farms to detect any possible presence of colistin. So after this global view of what is the current situation with the use of antibiotics, let me explain you what Ceva thinks about this. What is our position on this? And we have gathered all these subjects, issues, on a concept that we named the 3 R's for the responsible antibiotic use, okay? The 3 R's concept is conceived by Ceva as an ethical framework to drive the responsible use of antibiotics. But what does it mean, 3 R's? It means replace, reduce, and refine the use of antibiotics. Okay, let me repeat this. We think that we have to replace as much as possible, we have to reduce as much as possible, but as well we have to refine the use of antibiotics as much as possible. So starting with the first R, which is replace, what we know is that as a first-line attack, some of the factors, some of the topics that we need to consider is how we can improve, how we can prevent the occurrence of any disease. And there are several factors to take in account, which is use boundary and management, the way we manage the animals, the way we prepare the flow of the animals in the farm. It affects as well on the epidemiology of the diseases. But as well, we have the use of vaccines, obvious. We have the possible use of NSAIDs anti-inflammatories, and we will talk about this now, because it's a first-line alternative solution to replace the antibiotic use. As well, we have nutrition. This is very important. The way we feed our animals, as well, we will have a result on their health. The genetics, companies are working more and more on lines which are more resistant against possible disease. Biosecurity, training of the people. This is very important. We need to teach the producers. We need to teach not only the veterinarians about the epidemiology of the disease, about how we can prevent the occurrence of this disease, or, as for example, Jean-Noel commented in his previous presentation, possible eradication programs as well, to eliminate completely a specific pathogens that can cause a disease. So in this framework of replacing, Ceva is offering different solutions. From one side, let me present you one of the products that we have in our range of reproduction, and you would tell me, why reproduction with antibiotic use? Well, yes, there is a meaning on this. Actually, Ceva offers you one product named Altresin, which is an altrenogest-based product, which allows to synchronize the heat of the gills when we introduce them into the hair. And what is the impact of this synchronization? Very simple. We are able to arrange the production by batches. We can arrange the production by weekly batches, or 3 weeks batches, or 5 week batches, but always treating this group only as a batch that is going to circulate around the farm, all in, all out. And as we know all here, this is very important because it allows us to concentrate animals with the same age, with the same immunological status, with the same environmental status at any time, allowing at the same time to reduce any cross of infections or possible pathogens contamination among the population of the farm, and at the same time improves the health status of the farm and allow us to reduce the antibiotic use. But as well, actually we want to offer you another important solution when we talk about replace. It's about the NSAID anti-inflammatory product. We can use this anti-inflammatory product as a first-line treatment, and it can help us to use the antibiotics in a different way, even reduce its use. In this case, Ceva is offering one range of paracetamol molecule named paracetam in different forms. We can provide it by premix, by oral water, and the main objective of this molecule, paracetamol, is very simple. We say it here, just to let's make them feel better. Let's try to avoid they have fever. Let's try to avoid any pain, stress, to let them eat and grow healthier. And this, for us, is a solution that we have seen. Let me present you here a study that we published 2 years ago. It was published in the ESPHN of Europe. It was about the case of one farm, positive to peers, that they had an outbreak of influenza at the fattening period at one moment, okay? So in this farm, what we decided is to create 3 different groups of treatment. We treat one group of pigs affected by influenza with only paracetam. We treated another group with doxycycline, and we led the third group as a control group without no treatment. And what's very interesting, the results that we saw. Look, let me show you here. Here we see what happened since the last day that we start to treat them, about the incidence of new cases. And that we saw is that the group treated only with paracetamol, no antibiotics, it didn't appear any new cases, versus the doxycycline treatment or the placebo, where they increased to 3% or 9.1%. Or even as well, what we measure is the incidence of new animals that got affected by the disease, apart of the group that we treated, and we saw that versus 2.3% of the group treated with paracetamol. In the group treated with the antibiotic doxycycline, they had an increase of 9.1% of animals affected. So it's just to show you what are the great advantages of this type of molecule as a first-line treatment, for example, in disease or outbreaks caused by viral infections. And it's something that we need to start to think that maybe can help us to provide a solution to the animals without overusing the antibiotics. Of course, Ceva is offering you a wide range of vaccines. Even now, we have included in this range 3 new vaccines, named Circovac, Progressis, and Parvovax. But I don't want to go very deep on this because my colleague, Dr. Roman Greci, will speak about this part later, and I think he will give you more detailed information. But as a common message, this is another way to replace the antibiotics. Just let me comment you that Ceva has a company which is able to produce custom vaccines in France. Actually, we want to cover other countries of Europe. So it's another solution that we believe is going to help the European farmers to treat a specific disease without using or overusing the antibiotics. And finally, with the vaccines, Ceva is providing different technologies, applications to help as well to control this disease and its epidemiology. In this case, let me just present you the Cevalan program. Probably you know already what it is, but basically it's an application that you can download in your tablet, which allows the veterinarian to go to the slaughterhouse and assess or score the lesions, respiratory lesions that the lambs may have at the end of the fattening period. With this application, Ceva is providing another tool to let the veterinarian control, analyze, and take decisions about its herds and about the health of their fattening pigs. So let's go for the second R, which is reduce. Okay, we have to use antibiotics, it's true, but how we can reduce this use of antibiotics? And here there are several factors as well that we think that we need to take in consideration, and they are very important. The first one is diagnostics. We need to know what is the best and right treatment to treat a specific disease caused by specific pathogens. And diagnostic tools are key on this. Second part here is the equipments that we can use to apply these medicaments, not only antibiotics, but vaccines. The more we are improving with the equipments, the better we are treating the animals, and at the same time, the better we are using the antibiotics in a rational way. The third point that we comment here is, again, the training of the people. It's important to teach and train all the colleagues, all the producers, veterinarians about how to use these equipments. And finally, another important point for the reduction of antibiotics, the measure of the consumption of antibiotics is a key point for us to take decisions. We need to know what we are doing, what we are using, how much we are using, where we are using, in order to take actions or to decide what to use or what to apply to the animals. So basically, on this subject, Ceva is investing in different points. Here, let me show you just a couple of things. Ceva is investing a lot now on computing data to process different information coming from the country, able to process it and to give data to the vets to take decisions. Another part that we are investing a lot is on diagnostic tests that can be implemented on the farm. We believe that it's important that the veterinarian can have a fast and reliable diagnosis of the disease on the farm, not waiting to send the sample to a lab, wait for the results, and then take a decision. In this point as well, Ceva now currently has a team specifically working to develop this kind of diagnostic service. And linked with this, as well, Ceva, what it's doing is preparing a complete program about training on diagnostics. This program is working on the antibiotic sensitivity testing. We want to teach the veterinarians how is perform a sensitivity test in the lab. We want to teach the veterinarians to understand what is the pharmacokinetic and the pharmacokinetic behavior of the drugs. This is important to understand when is the right moment to inject, what is the right dose. But as well, we want to teach not only the veterinarians, but as well our own teams. We believe this is important. For this reason, we have started an internal training in Deventer in the GD Academy, where we are training all our teams. Currently, we have several teams from Europe, Latin America doing this training to let them understand all these points and topics that I have explained about the diagnosis. From the other hand, Ceva is offering another new tool, another solution for the veterinarians, which are equipments. Let me explain you that Ceva has a company named Desvac, which is fully dedicated to develop equipments for vaccination and application of treatments of any medicament. This is the Desvac campus and is working since 1996. We provide equipments for vaccination for poultry, but as well for pigs. And why this is important? Well, we know there are many social issues when we talk about the food production. One of these is the animal welfare. We believe that the animals have to feel good. They have to live growing in a standard welfare situation. But at the same time, we have to improve the quality of the treatments. We have to ensure that these animals are being well treated, they have been applied with the right dose at the right moment. And finally, we know that it's important to give traceability information to the customer. Now, the consumers want food that you can trace and you can know, okay, where was treated this animal, in which farm, with which medicament. So all these elements are considered as a key factors for our Desvac company. And what do we see? We see from one side that we have the need to start to identify individually animal per animal. At the same time, we have the need to link this identification of the animals with the database of the farm, okay? And taking these two elements, we need as well to identify and trace what are the products, the medicaments that we are applying to this animal in this specific farm. There are three elements together that we need to gather and process to give this information. For this, actually, in the market, we haven't found yet this complete system that offers all these three elements that I have explained you. But I can tell you that here in Ceva, with Desvac, we have developed a new device, the name is SmartVac, which is going to offer you all these solutions. It's going to be an injector, automatic injector, which is able to detect and identify every animal, what we are going to inject him, what is the dose that we are going to inject him. We are going to know from which farm is coming, who has applied this treatment, and all together is going to be processed and is going to be presented in your smartphones or tablet. Okay? So this is another solution that actually from today Ceva is offering to our partners, the producers. From the other side, as I mentioned it before, training we consider is a key element on the rational use of antibiotics. the consumers, the producers, the veterinarians, they need to know how the antibiotics works, what is the epidemiology of the infections of the disease to use these antibiotics in order to take the right decisions. For this reason, since many years, I don't know if you remember, but our CEO, Mark Prikasi, has presented this morning, Ceva is taking action on this. In 2007, we published a complete guidance about the rational use of antibiotics, but as well, we are doing different courses, different training courses in different countries. In this case, I can show you is France, but we are doing the same in China, attending exclusive seminars, attending the Lehman Chen conference. This is the case as well in Thailand, preparing different training courses about the responsible use of antibiotics. This activity is key for the use of the antibiotics in the future. We need to teach the veterinarians, the producers, ourselves about what is the best way to use these medicaments. Another important point, and let me put here one phrase said by this Lord Kelvin, which is it was a physician mathematic. To measure is to know. If we can measure, we know. So that means that if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. And why do I say this? Because it's very important for the use of antibiotics. We need to know what do we consume. And for this, actually in Europe, I can tell you that we are working on this. It's a project that is set up in some European countries. Different countries are preparing systems to trace and to measure the consumption of antibiotics. For example, in France, there is a medium-term project going on, actually by the Agency of Medicament in France. They are reporting an annual report of sales and panels of antibiotics. We have some information, but still there is a lot of room to improve. And in this improvement, Ceva is participating, is taking actions. For example, we are co-developing a software, the name is Injectable, and this co-development is in collaboration with different key accounts of France that allows the farmer to start to measure, to record the use of the antibiotics on the farm, okay? With three main objectives. The first one is to monitor the consumption of antibiotics on each farm, to know what they are using every day, every week. The second is, based on this consumption, start to establish objectives or goals to reduce the use of the antibiotics. And finally, to provide information to the food chain industry, okay? As I said before, we want to inform the final users how the meat has been produced and what are the treatments that they have been used if they need it. So this system is, let's say, very simple. We are entering some data from the farms, the prescription of the veterinarians, database from the producer. So here, this software is able to integrate and process the data, giving us detailed information about what is the milligrams of any molecule that we are using per kilo, or what is the daily dose administered on average on every farm. And as a result of this, I can show you here two examples. One example was in Europe about the use of colistin. The European Agency of Medicament made a referral on colistin, including this molecule as a, remember, second category antibiotic with potential risk for human health. And since this referral occurred, there was a reduction of 42% in 6 months. And why do we know that there was a reduction of 42% of this consumption? Basically, because this Injectable software. Here, you can see the parameters expressed. Or exactly the same with fluoroquinolones. It's been now a law that is restricting the use of fluoroquinolones in France. So since this law was published, it's been reduced almost 99% of use of fluoroquinolones only in 6 months. Here we can see the graph of the software indicating this. Okay, let's go for the last R, refine. As we said, antibiotics are needed and we have to use it, but we can refine, we can improve its use. For this, what we believe is that we need to get more and more information about epidemiology of the disease. We need to get more information about the correct dosage of the antibiotic, the pharmacokinetics and dynamics of this antibiotic, the right administration route. Is better orally, is better injected. All these factors are going to allow us to refine its use. On the other side, it's very important to start to classify the types of antibiotics. As the EMEA agency in Europe has categorized, we have now category 1 antibiotics, category 2, category 3. These allow us to prioritize on the use of different molecules in order to avoid the occurrence of antimicrobial resistance. So we can choose among the different molecules to use which is the best option in order to treat any specific pathogen. And finally, as well, it's important that we increase the information on labels, we increase information on the scientific community by new publications, trying to get more knowledge about what is the epidemiology of specific strains, sensitivity profiles, etc. So for this third part, Ceva is implementing different actions as well. One important is trying to create a network and a collaboration among the different laboratories worldwide or in every country. We are having partnerships with different countries, for example, in China with Nanjing Agricultural University, in Europe we have with other countries like Czech Republic, France, where our main objective is to surveillance the presence of strains on the field, which strains are sensible, less sensible against specific antibiotics, in order to know which are the best molecules that we can use to treat. Another thing that actually we are focusing more and more is on the publication of new articles, new abstracts about this epidemiological surveillance as well, use of antibiotics. We are publishing abstracts we are going to publish now in the ESPHM in Prague. We expect to publish several papers and trials in the ESPH, in the IPBS to be celebrated in China. We have a future project very interesting as well in Bordeaux with the Aquitaine Microbiology Institute, where we want to investigate what is the microflora, the bacteria that are included in the gut of the pigs, to understand as well what is the positive effect of these different bacteria in order to avoid gastrointestinal infections caused by Escherichia coli, for example, which is going to help us to understand if we need to use antibiotics or not, just only improving the flora. But there's another point here, and I have mentioned it already. We will move in a certain clinical situation from a mass per-dose treatment to an injectable treatment. And that's why with this bag, we are offering this smart bag, because we believe that in many cases, the solution is going to be to treat the animals, if we have to treat them with antibiotics, to treat it by injection individually. And for this case, Ceva offers a complete range of molecules for injectable about antibiotics. We have amoxicillin, we have chlorphenicol, we have penicillin, a complete range of molecules. And the main message that we want to tell you is, first choose the right active ingredient to treat. You are open to choose the best molecule that you consider you have to use with a responsible use. And second, then choose the most convenient. That is our statement. Another important action or focus that Ceva is taking on first-line treatment for antibiotics. We believe that we have to prioritize the treatment of a specific disease on farm with specific first-line molecules. In this case, let me present you here our flagship product. Is an amoxicillin injectable, Vetrimoxin LA, which the main objective for us is to replace the use of third and fourth generation cephalosporins by amoxicillin. In this case, what we avoid is to generate or create bacteria producing ESBL resistance. So this is another example about how we can use responsibly the antibiotics. So just to conclude my presentation, let me show you what is Ceva vision for the future. We believe that it's important to safeguard animal health and welfare because we need to ensure sustainable production. Remember the population that we expect to be in some years in the future. But at the same time, we have to get a sustainable husbandry for a safe and wholesome food to supply the future human population. And in conclusion, I would like to say 3 points. The first one is antibiotics will continue to play a key role in the future of the human and animal health. And for this reason, we need to protect them. We need to start to use them in a responsible, prudent, rational way. But the second point here, and I think involves all of us, is that each of us has a role on this responsibility. We have to start to think about that and how to take the better decision to use them. And finally, let us present to you as a living company which is able to lead the One Health movement concept in the veterinary field, offering a complete range of solutions, as I have explained you here, to use rationally and responsibly the antibiotics. So thank you very much for your attention, and at your disposal for any question.
Thank you.